They were there in the trenches of France. They were there on the frozen hills of Belgium. And they were there on D-Day, fighting their way from the blood-red surf of Normandy to the heart of Germany. They are the 9th Infantry Regiment, the Manchus, a regiment with a motto that became its way of life: keep up the fire. The 9th Infantry Regiment was first formed in 1798, one of the oldest units in the U.S. Army. It earned its famous nickname, the Manchus, during the Boxer Rebellion in China in 1900, after a grueling march from Tientsin to Peking under constant attack. Outnumbered but unbroken, the regiment's ferocity became legend. Their battle cry, "Keep up the fire," was born from those desperate days, shouted by officers and men alike as they pushed through enemy barricades. It became the eternal spirit of the 9th Infantry. In 1917, America entered the Great War. The 9th Infantry was assigned to the 2nd Infantry Division, a composite formation of Army and Marine units. They landed in France in June 1917, among the first American troops to reach the Western Front. In the mud and wire of Belleau Wood, Soissons, and Saint-Mihiel, they fought alongside Marines and French forces, learning the brutal realities of trench warfare. At Soissons in July 1918, the 9th led a desperate counterattack that broke through German lines, but at a terrible cost. Entire companies were reduced to a handful of men, yet the regiment kept up the fire, pushing forward until victory was secured. By war's end, the 9th Infantry had earned its first Presidential Unit Citation and the French Croix de Guerre for gallantry. They returned home heroes, blooded, tested, and forever changed. In the decades that followed, the 9th Infantry Regiment stood watch in a world that seemed at peace, stationed at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and later Fort Benning, Georgia. But as the 1930s gave way to war once again, the regiment's veterans knew what was coming. They began preparing a new generation of soldiers, men who would carry the Manchu legacy across another world war. June 6, 1944, D-Day, the 9th Infantry Regiment, still part of the 2nd Infantry Division, landed on Omaha Beach, Normandy. As the 1st Division fought to break through at Easy Red, the 9th came ashore just behind them, under a storm of fire. Machine guns swept the beach. Artillery shells tore through the landing craft. But the Manchus pressed forward, scaling the bluffs and destroying German strongpoints. By nightfall, the 9th Infantry had linked up with the 16th and 26th Regiments of the 1st Division, together forming the first solid Allied foothold in France. The next 6 weeks were some of the toughest fighting of the war. In the Bocage country, thick hedgerows, narrow lanes, hidden machine guns, every field was a fortress. The 9th Infantry fought yard by yard through towns like Trèvières and Saint-Lô, leading the push that finally broke the German lines in late July. In December 1944, the Manchus were thrown into one of the fiercest battles of the entire war, the Battle of the Bulge. At Krivenier, Rocherath-Krinkelt, and Elsenborn Ridge, the 9th Infantry held the line against the full fury of Hitler's winter offensive. They faced panzer divisions, Tiger tanks, and relentless artillery in freezing blizzards, but they never broke. Their defense at Elsenborn Ridge became one of the decisive stands of the campaign, halting the German advance and buying precious time for Allied reinforcements. From Normandy, the regiment advanced rapidly across France, liberating towns and driving toward Belgium. When the battle finally ended, the 9th had lost hundreds of men, but the German offensive was shattered. Once again, the regiment had lived its motto, "Keep up the fire." In the spring of 1945, the 9th Infantry joined the Allied drive across the Rhine River, sweeping through the Ruhr Pocket and deep into Germany. They liberated concentration camps, captured thousands of prisoners, and helped bring the Nazi regime to its knees. By May 1945, the 9th Infantry stood victorious, battle-hardened veterans of 2 world wars. When the war ended, the survivors of the 9th returned home, proud, weary, and forever bound by the battles they had fought. Their regimental colors bore campaign streamers from both world wars, each representing courage, sacrifice, and victory. But their story didn't end in 1945. The 9th Infantry Regiment would go on to fight again in Korea, Vietnam, and Iraq, carrying the same battle cry born in China more than a century ago. From the trenches of France to the beaches of Normandy, from the snows of Belgium to the cities of Germany, The 9th Infantry Regiment kept up the fire. Their courage lit the path to victory. Their spirit endures as long as there are soldiers willing to stand, fight, and never yield.